Welcome to the Friendly Frequencies podcast. I am your host, Carmen McLeod, and I am here to talk to you about my passion for spirituality and personal development. My purpose in life at this time is to remind you how powerful you truly are and that you create your own reality. If the mind, the soul, and the universe are topics that interest you, and you want to continue to evolve into your soul's purpose, then you are in the right place. Thank you for joining me as I travel the world and record my journey through self-discovery. Hello. Carmen here. I am going to give you a little bit of a plot twist as I start this episode. I know that a lot of you are expecting me to be coming to you live from the Philippines, and I was expecting that as well. But something went wrong at the airport yesterday, and I did not get on my flight. So everything's good now. It's all been figured out, and I'm going tomorrow now. And I learned some lessons and made some mistakes, and I'm going to talk to you about what happened and how I'm learning from it. And also, the moral of the story for me is everything happens for a reason. And though I don't know what that reason is yet, because it just happened and I don't know how it's going to unfold, I already know that getting on that flight was not meant for me at this time. I just strongly feel that I was saved from whatever was to happen, and it doesn't have to be anything extreme like a plane crash. That's the first thing that people have been saying to me is, what if there's a plane crash or something? Like, yeah, okay, no, it's probably not that, but who knows what could have happened if I had made it on there, right? Everything could have been different. So essentially what happened is I didn't know that, and this is 100% my fault. Everything that happened was my fault. Some people may blame other factors when things like this happen, but I feel like at the end of the day, it's my flight. I had responsibility to know everything, and I just kind of know that I should have known better before going on this flight. I didn't know that I needed either a COVID test or a booster shot. So if you don't have your booster shot, you need a COVID test. I have my full vaccinations, but I don't have the booster shot. So I'm looking back and I'm like, why would I not have checked? See, I think I was feeling a little bit too confident because I was just traveling for, 4 months, and I only spent a month here. I'm like, so I guess I just figured everything would be the same, and it's not. It's different now. And yeah, so I screwed that up. I also didn't leave enough time for myself at the airport, which I usually do. My mom has always been one to get us to things hours and hours early, and I kind of do that as well now because I know it's so beneficial. But I left something at home and we went back and got it, and everything would have been fine. I still was there 2 hours before my flight left, but you have to have everything figured out before the 1 hour mark. You have to be checked in. Otherwise you'd have to be checked in and everything at least an hour before. So this whole process took a while, and I was running around the airport, and just a bunch of things were going wrong where it took me a while to even find the place where I check in and do that, and then the machines weren't working. So a lot of things were kind of not working in my favor from the get-go. And at that point I still had about, half an hour to figure it out. And then I was talking to the worker, who was really, really sweet, and she had an adorable Canadian accent, which made me feel much better. She was great, and she tried her best to, find out for sure what it is that we could do, what are my options. And she sent me down the way to go get a COVID test in the building. And she said, I'm not sure if it's open, but go check. And so I had to run down there with my backpack that weighs 1,000,000 pounds and everything, all my stuff. And I see that it's closed. There's no one working there. So I ran back to her, and she tells me, oh, and then another person said, no, actually it's upstairs, you have to go to a different spot. So I ran upstairs, and I literally missed it by 1 minute. I mean, I actually got there at 6:59 and it was supposed to close at 7 and they closed it early. But either way, I wouldn't have made it. So that seemed like really divine timing to me, and I'm going to look at it as divine timing. Like, some people would say that that's terrible timing and like be so, like, in the moment I was choked, obviously, because I was like, okay, well, that's my last chance to get on this flight and now it's gone. So, and I had no idea what that meant. Like, that was this was probably one of the most stressed out I've ever been, because it's a really expensive flight and I was not sure if I would ever be able to change it or to get my money back or anything. So I was really stressed out and trying not to like cry and freak out in front of everybody, while also having to literally run around the airport and deal with everything, like try to get at least everything figured out before that hour mark. So I think, because I talked to the ladies and they said, if you just try and figure it out right now, because, maybe if you haven't checked in yet, they'll hold the spot, whatever. So I was trying to figure it out before the 1 hour mark, but did not by a long shot. I ended up having to go to the other side of the airport and get a hold of, the Aeroplan people and whatever. That ended up taking me a long time, like an hour or two, going back and forth between the phone line and the workers there, because the workers couldn't help me because they're not Aeroplan, and like Aeroplan wasn't answering because they were closed, and all of this stuff was just, it was horrible. Definitely like the most stressed out I've been in a very, very long time. But the whole time I just knew that this was meant to happen, and that everything happens for a reason. Like I've said before, I always think that everything happens for a reason. So even in the midst of all of this chaos, and while I'm still fighting back tears and a full-on freak out session in front of everybody, I still had in the back of my mind and continued to remind myself, as difficult as it was at this moment, I still reminded myself that this was meant to be. Like, everything happens for a reason. This is all happening according to plan. Don't worry about it. Of course I was worried, because even if it was meant to be, like, regardless, if it's meant to be, I know it's meant to be, but if I don't get paid back, like, that still really sucks. And that may have been part of the process, but damn, like, that still sucks regardless of what the outcome will be of it. So, but I continued to just continue to like hold myself in that vibration of, this was meant to be, everything's fine, everything's going to work out in my favor, because it always does. And I am really proud of myself for keeping that in the back of my mind the whole time. And I'm sure it really helped when, everything kind of continued to unfold. That was, I'd say, so I didn't get an answer for anything last night. This was all last night. I had to go home because Aeroplan was closed, and so I was told by a worker that I should be able to there's a chance I can still get refunded for the flight because of whatever, all these different factors. And so I was still hopeful, and I definitely wanted to make sure I was in, as much as I was still, like, obviously I was bawling my eyes out on the way home and, crying in my mom's arms and all of that, but like at the same, just because of how stressful it was and how, of course it was so disappointing, right? Thinking that you're about to go on a flight, and I love to fly too, so I was like really disappointed I didn't get to go on the flight, and just not knowing. But it was more so just the disappointment and the fact that I had just like said all of this, these emotional goodbyes that same day, and to now be coming back home is just like, I was like, what the hell, like, how can this be happening? But even in the midst of that, I just wanted to make sure I kept my vibration high, and I did not want, because I know how easily it is to snowball when you're in these vibrations, good or bad. So when you are in these vibrations of, why does this kind of thing always happen to me? What the hell? This is horrible. Just all those that are completely valid and that most people and that most people would think in this kind of situation, because that's like, I missed my flight. It's horrible, right? It's devastating. But where was I going with that? But to hold so if I was to let that vibration take over me, though it would be valid and normal, I know for a fact that that would just snowball and more things would just keep going wrong. And just who knows what would have happened. Maybe I wouldn't have got reimbursed. Yeah, spoiler alert. I did get reimbursed. Everything's okay now. Thank God. But who knows what would have happened if I had kept that vibration and let it really affect me. I, like, literally, you'll probably think this is funny. On the way home, of course, like, after I got all my crying out, my mom and I are talking about it, and I knew she'd be the perfect person to see when I'm in that state, because she's always says the right thing and has the most amazing, like, wisdom and advice or whatever it is that she says. She can always make me feel better and just bring, like, a lot of more clarity to my situation. And whatever it was that we were just talking about it, kind of talking about what I'm talking about right now, about how, imagine if I had gone on and, like, what would have happened that clearly wasn't what was meant for me. So we were just talking about how everything happens for a reason, and that I'm going to learn lessons from this, and it's all going to work out in my favor in the end, that kind of thing. But the funny part is, like, at one point her and I were screaming, like, woo, woo. I'm going to move away from the mic while I do this, but we're like, whoa, whoa, like, literally, like, wooing in the car, yelling, out of excitement of, like, and I was like, thanks God, thanks for saving me from that plane, like, thank you for taking me out of that situation of whatever was going to happen. Clearly it wasn't meant for me. I was literally, like, thanking God for what just happened. We were, like, wooing, and that was just so hilarious and so powerful, and it just shows that's just the kind of people that we are. I don't know, like, I am not gonna let something like this, I don't know, change the vibe as much as it totally did. And I was literally, I don't know, I couldn't even believe what had happened the whole night. I was kind of, like, in shock still. And even this morning I was confused when I woke up, like, what the heck, I'm not on a plane. But I did not let the vibration of knowing that this is going to work out leave, and I just knew it was going to work out. I knew everything was going to work out. That's all I knew. I didn't know how or what was going to happen, but I just trusted. I've had full trust in the whole process of this. So, and for good reason, because look at that. Everything worked out perfectly. All the stress is over. I just finished everything I needed to do in preparation. And hopefully that's it. Like, I think I was thorough enough this time. So also, sidebar, another funny part about this story is that this is not the first flight I have missed. You think that I would have learned my lesson the first time. My mom and I actually missed a flight about, it was 2018. We were flying from Orlando to Brazil. We were supposed to fly from Orlando to Brazil, and we missed the flight because we were watching Jimmy Fallon, that show, Elle, on Jimmy Fallon, where he dresses up as a girl. And yeah, we were watching that for, like, forever, for hours, and we had missed our flight because we didn't even realize that the flight was moved to a different gate. And we just sat there at the gate we thought it was at, watching this show. And yeah, so, and then we learned a million other lessons with that situation. We never had visas and lost a shit ton of money, and like, that was also quite traumatizing. I'll never forget how that ended up happening. But even in that situation, I also remember that, after we kind of got the tears out of, like, oh wow, okay, our trip is cut short, and things, that situation turned out a lot, okay, quote unquote worse than this one, because that one actually we didn't even get to go to Brazil in the end, so, like, half our trip was taken away. However, her and I both, we both had this mindset at that point too, where we were like, clearly we weren't meant to go to Brazil. And we had some people warn us against going there as two women, because it's quite dangerous in Brazil. We heard from someone who is from Brazil. And that just made me feel like this was meant to be. And at that point, I also thanked God. I was like, okay, well, thank you for saving us from. And then at that point, I actually felt like we were saved from something pretty bad. I don't feel like that with me now, but at that point, I felt like we were really saved from who knows, like, I don't know what would have happened to us out there, but I feel like this was just, I don't know, God's way of, God, the universe, whatever, our higher selves, the way of taking us away from that. And just, yeah, we were just able to trust that that was what was meant to be. So I'm glad we were able to look at it that way at that point too. I feel like I should have learned to be like smarter about making sure everything is ready, that I know everything going into these flights, that I need to prepare and all of that. I totally thought that experience with my mom would have taught me, and that I would never have a mistake like that again. But nope. I just did it again, sort of. I mean, different situation. I have my visa and stuff ready, sort of, but this was obviously a different thing. This is a COVID thing, but same situation. If I was just more prepared and more aware of what could happen, or just making sure that I know what I'm doing and whatever, prepare. I really learned my lesson this time, because I made the same mistake again. I did not prepare enough. I could have done more to make sure I was ready, and even if I had just gotten to the airport just a bit sooner this time, yesterday, if I had gotten there just a little bit sooner, if I didn't forget that thing at home, this all would have worked out, because I could have got the COVID test before it closed and all of that. So again, this whole divine timing thing, like, there was a reason I left something at home, and there was a reason we decided, okay, let's go back and get it, even though it's not that important. There literally were just business cards and stickers that I wanted to bring. But we were like, we have some time. We have time, so let's do it. So easily that could have not happened, and I could have been on the flight right now. But I just feel like this is all, and then all of this, I get to the airport, I almost am able to fix the situation, but then, oh no, the worker sends me to the wrong COVID testing spot. If she had known that it was upstairs, not at the original spot, I would have made it before it closed, because I only made it within 1 minute of it closing. So all of these like tiny, seemingly insignificant decisions and happenings of that day was, to me, that is unexplainable. I don't think that was just all by coincidence, and that this was just something really shitty that just happened to me, and oh no, like, things happen, right? I don't think that. I think that all of those tiny little things led to the next, because there was a reason for it. And regardless of whether I'm right about that or not, because how am I supposed to know, right? I'm so happy that I feel this way, because it made it so much easier to get through. The whole situation was so much easier to deal with. I can't even imagine how upset and how mad I would be if I didn't think this way. I would be so mad at myself for letting that happen, and for not learning my lesson the first time, and all of these things. I'm really thankful that I'm able to actually thank the situation for what it was, rather than be bitter about it and regret. I don't like to regret anything. I genuinely don't regret anything in life. I don't even let myself feel that emotion. And it's like it's not like I force it away. Like, I don't ever feel it, because I know that even if I do regret something, I snap out of it for like right away, because that was meant to happen. Everything happens the way it's meant to happen. It's a world of synchronicities, and as long as I'm continuing to follow my intuition, then everything's going to work out the way it's supposed to. So, my intuition told me to turn back around and go home and grab my business cards. And I listened to it. And as much as some people would say that was a bad idea, I'm going to think that it was a great idea, and thank my higher self for telling me to do that. So, where am I now? I've told you the story. Yeah, I mean, when see, it doesn't, this kind of situation. So I think that you can think of a situation in your life that you can relate to this, whatever it is, where you can think that, and maybe you can start practicing this when something goes wrong, like terribly wrong, or even just slightly wrong. You can choose how you react to it, and you can start to look at it as a blessing, or look at it as this was meant to be. Everything happens the way it's meant to. And it doesn't need to make sense right now. It doesn't need to, you can't possibly imagine what it is going to do for you. You're not that smart. I heard this I've been listening to this audio. I told you guys about it last week. Your wish is your command. But anyways, the guy, Kevin Trudeau, always says, you're not that smart. You ain't that smart. Like, you don't know what the universe has planned for you. You ain't that smart. Like, you don't know, you want this amount of money, or you want this thing out of life, and it's important to not try and figure out the how, because you ain't that smart. You don't know how it's going to happen. All you need to know is what you want. The how is irrelevant, because you ain't that smart. I love that. I really love that. And it's exactly how it plays into this situation. So another thing that you could try is look back at something in your life that went wrong, or in the past, and look at how that unfolded for you now that you're able to look back on it. Is there any time where something you think was a bad thing in the moment, but it turned out to be something that you're like, wow, thank God that happened. Otherwise, I wouldn't have met this person, or I wouldn't have done this thing, or whatever. Everything happens for a reason. I'm sure you can come up with something. And I am sure I can, everything. I think, like, everything, I could give a million examples of when this happens. So it's that red thread that I've talked about, that I talked about in my second episode ever. The red thread that connects everything to everything in your life. One thing leads to another, and you don't see it in the moment. You need to, just try to keep it in your mind that you ain't that smart right now. You can't figure this out right now. You don't know. I have no idea how this is going to affect my future, but I know it is in the best possible way. Because even if it leads to another bad thing, even if that leads to an even worse thing, and it seems to be like just this horrible domino effect, I still know that at the end of the day, at the end of all of this, there was a reason for it. I needed this. This taught me something. Even if something necessarily, quote unquote, like good doesn't come from this, even if all of these events are bad and it doesn't actually lead to such a good event to happen, the learning that comes from it is amazing in itself. That's worth it already. And if you end up meeting some new people or having this new experience, that's just a bonus. That's even better. But regardless of that, the learning that you get from these situations is priceless. And it stops you from, one, making that mistake in the future, or you think it would. You think it would. Should have. But whatever, regardless, like, I learned a lesson from the last time, and I learned the lesson from this time that I've missed these flights. And now I think I'm going to be a pro when it comes to flying, because there's no way in hell I am missing another flight. No way. That's it. I'm maxed out. But I know that the lessons I learned are priceless, and I think that it could have saved me from, in the future, missing a flight where I wouldn't get reimbursed, or missing something, if I was to have made this mistake again in the future, that outcome would have been a million times worse than this one, because this outcome was honestly fine. All it did was push my travels back a day or 2 days. That's no big deal. So I know that this saved me from something worse, or it's going to lead me to something amazing, or whatever. I'm actually really excited to find out. And as soon as I do find out, as soon as I can look back and I see that red thread, I'll be letting you guys know. I will definitely do a part 2 on this, because eventually I will figure out why this needed to happen. And I have a feeling I'll find out during my travels, because I'm going to meet, this is a fun game. I'm going to meet okay, sorry, I'm going to finish this thought first. I'm going to meet all different people now. Everything essentially is going to be different now. Not everything, but this also happened when I got to Vietnam. Like I got stuck at the border and was an illegal immigrant for 2 days. I think I mentioned this. This was horrible in the moment, but it was not so bad. I had to wait at the border for a day, whatever. But I knew that was going to change the whole trajectory of my time in Vietnam, the whole month. Because if I had gone a day sooner, I would have met all different people. Everybody's on the move, would have been a whole different experience. And I made lifelong friends there. So to think that I may not have ever met, my Irishmen, my 6 Irish friends, or like some of my English friends, my Dutch friend, all of them, like I made amazing friends out there. And if that didn't happen, I may not have met any of them. So like, this is where I was going with this. This is kind of a fun game that I've been playing that I like to play, like almost like looking into the multiverse. So I love Spider-Man. I love the idea of the multiverse. I also believe that the multiverse totally could exist, because in a way, in every situation, there's always like an infinite number of possibilities that could happen. And it's all one decision away, or one, molecule away from a whole different scenario happening. And some people say that all of these scenarios are happening at once. Every possibility of anything ever happening could or is all happening at the same time. So essentially, this kind of ties in with the law of attraction a bit, where you're able to manipulate that multiverse in a way. You're able to almost manipulate it so that you get what you want. Because in this multiverse, there is a version of you who has everything that you've ever wanted. Because every outcome that could ever be is here now, happening. So all you have to do is find out how to break through to that version of yourself that has all of those things. So it's a kind of an interesting topic. I really love it. And I think it's totally possible because I see how magical the world is and how magical manifestation is and how it works. So to me, it seems totally like it's totally possible. I'm also very open-minded to any crazy, weird subjects, but anyways, I like to, so the game that I've been kind of playing is, well, what would have happened if I had gotten on that flight? Would I have gotten on and all my luggage got lost? Or would I have gotten on and the plane crashed? Or it was the wrong plane, took me to Nepal or something? Or I don't know, what if everything went fine, but then I got there into town and, what something could have happened when I got there. All different cab drivers are going to be there to pick me up now, or whatever, maybe not, like, I'm sure they come every day, but, all the different tuk-tuk drivers and motorbike drivers who are there to give me a ride places, all different people. So who knows who would have been there waiting for me before. And on the positive side, like, now looking at, well, what's going to happen now that I'm doing it this time? So what's going to happen now that I'm leaving tomorrow? Well, who knows who I'm going to sit beside on the plane? Who knows who's going to pick me up when I arrive? Or any of these kind of things, right? Also, this could be a 1-day difference of who I meet at my volunteer jobs that I'm going to. Just to recap, I'm doing mural jobs out in the Philippines and trading for accommodation and food, just like I was doing in Cambodia. And there may be other volunteers there. That's where I met Emily, as she was another volunteer. Emily is my friend from Germany, for those of you who haven't been listening the whole way. But anyways, in the situation with Emily, she was about to leave the day after I arrived. And then I obviously convinced her to stay for another month. But if I had arrived just 1 day later, that wouldn't have even happened, and I wouldn't have made one of the best soul connections I've ever had. That was, very timely, and that worked out really well for both of us. And there's no way that was by chance, especially because it was such a random place to meet in this random fishing village with no tourists or anything. We're the only white people, and it was very yeah, in the hut of no furniture. And anyway, you've all heard the story. So let's talk about the positives that have already come from the situation that happened yesterday. First thing, I learned a valuable lesson. Prepare for your travels, guys. Like, read everything that they send you in preparation for your flights. Make sure you just be aware of everything you need to bring. I've forgotten things to flights before, and I've never been like the best person with preparing for flights, but I've always made it through and made it be. It always ended up working out. People probably show me more grace too because I'm adorable and Canadian. But anyways, I learned to be prepared every single time, 100% for the flights, and just know what I'm getting into, and always go early, all of those things. I really learned my lesson this time. And it also just reaffirmed my faith in how everything's going to work out, my faith in God, my faith in the process, just trusting. I trust the process so much, and it really showed me how I can still trust the process and trust in that everything is going to happen for me in my favor. When shit hits the fan and things go wrong, I'm still able to hold that space for myself and still hold that vibe. So I'm really actually quite impressed with myself, and I'm really happy that I'm able to do that, and it was a good sign. So I feel really proud of myself. And, I also got to spend more time with my family. So I came home yesterday. I went and saw Evan, my boyfriend, who's not really my boyfriend anymore. Got to see him one last time. It was a little kind of funny because we had this really emotional goodbye because we're deciding to break up because I'm going traveling for so long and we are kind of in different places of our lives. So beautiful breakup. He's still so special to me and vice versa, and best breakup I could have asked for, and still have lots of love for him. And it was the most beautiful and sad goodbye I've ever experienced. But I mean, other than the time I said goodbye to him the first time when I went to Cambodia, this time was much worse. But I got to see him again. So, I mean, I called him after. He thought I was on the plane already. And I'm like, hey, actually, obviously called him crying. Like, okay, well, that didn't work out. So can I come over? I need sushi. So I got to see him again. And that was honestly worth it was worth it. 100% worth it. Because it was really amazing to, I don't know, I'm going to cherish the last few minutes together that we have, or last few moments. So I don't know, I was given another evening with him, and I was given more time with my family. My mom got to pick me up from the airport, and though it was not ideal circumstances, I got to see her again. I got to hug her again. I got to come hug my dad again. And I'm just seeing people I love so much again was honestly worth the whole thing. I mean, it was a lot, but I just know that, one, considering I'm already like totally okay with what happened, now I just feel like I'm just focused on the positives. And as much as I was in shock yesterday, I was still like quite happy. I was like, I'm just focusing on here and now, and right now I'm with my loved ones. What more could I ask for? So I just looked at the positives. So those are some of the good things that came out of this situation. And there's going to be plenty more where that came from, because I know that this was divine timing. And, it's funny how I kind of go through some sort of traumatic, like, airport experience. I don't know if this is something that's going to happen every time I'm going to the next transition of the next chapter of my life. Like, I went from Thailand to Cambodia. That was a huge transition. I went from traveling with Evan for a month, going to Cambodia and continuing to do the rest of my travels alone. And that was a whole new chapter for me. And the transition into it was horrible. It was a horrible experience. I was just so devastated, so sad, crying for 2 days straight. Horrible experience overall, but it led to the most amazing experience ever, and it was exactly what I needed. And then the whole 4 months following that, I literally had euphoric, amazing time, and nothing like that ever happened again, where I was in that point of just like crying. Like, I don't cry much, but in these moments I cry so much. And so for me, it's like, well, honestly, if this is what needs to happen between each chapter of my life, then so be it. That's great, because I keep getting something from it, and it keeps teaching me something. And it kind of shakes me up a bit, where it's like, okay, I'm not invincible. Things can go wrong, though I always know that. When it actually happens, it kind of makes me feel more like it's just a good reminder to just not think of myself as so invincible, and to just learn more lessons, and just know how imperfect I am, and just, yeah, lots of growth to come from these times. And I wouldn't trade them for the world. As much as I hate being in the situation, is when it's over, it's always worth it. And that's all I got for you. So thank you for listening to this story. I cannot wait till my next episode, because I promise you I will be in the Philippines by then. Another thing that actually came out of this is I would have had to put this episode probably out late, because I would have been still traveling right now. Like, I would be in this morphed, I don't know, time warp continuum that we call traveling from one side of the world to the other. I still can't fathom this at all. Time changes, and how I fly from here to there, and I go forward a day and it's still the same time, and oh my gosh, I just can't. So trippy. Love it. But anyways, I would be mixed up in this kind of time warp at this moment, so I probably wouldn't have even gotten the episode out to you till a day later. So there you go, another positive came out. I was able to give you the episode. And yeah, okay, I'll shut up now. I love you all, and thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.